All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Check In. I'm Daniel McCarthy. I'm the editorial director, vice president here at Travel Market Report, and I'm really excited to have Hnatov here to talk to me a little bit about what's happening with CORE, what's happening with travel advisor training. But first, Diana, thank you so much. I know January is a busy time for everybody, but I really appreciate you taking the time to sort of chat with me a little bit here.
Sure, my pleasure.
I was hoping, I know you're, I guess I would say relatively new to CORE and maybe relatively new to the agent side of things.
I am, yeah.
Would you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about sort of your background and how you landed in the position you are right now.
Sure, I'd be happy to share that. I started out actually as a hospitality and tourism major, where I proceeded to go on into the hospitality field, mostly hotels and restaurants. And I found in the restaurant industry, I sort of just navigated straight to training because as many industries in the hospitality and tourism field, it's an ever revolving door. So we decided to develop a new training program. And then I continued on into sales for many organizations and many hotels. And then I proceeded to get a position with a IT training company, which does training for IT developers, also in leadership and development. So I stayed in that position for 25 years in developing curriculum and programs that resonate with our student learners.
Okay. What kind of things were, and again, I know the travel advisor world is probably pretty far away, it seems like, and that might be just a misperception, but it seems like it's pretty far away from the IT professional world. Like what kind of things were important to train in that segment?
Well, you know what? Training is training, honestly. And so my role is to develop curriculum that resonates with learners. So it doesn't matter what the subject is. It's a matter of how it's put together, how the learner absorbs that information, and what's the best way that's going to resonate with them. So I work with subject matter experts in bringing them in and discussing the actual content, but the actual development of that curriculum is a very refined process. It requires a lot of thought process and doing things in a chronological order. As well as understanding the learner. And learners are ever evolving. So you always have to change that learning program. It's not a one size fits all for everyone.
Okay. All right. So how long, you said you were over there for, it seems like the majority of your career, or like the majority of the last part of your career?
Yeah, I would say I spent 25 years there. And then prior to that, I spent another 15 to 20 years in the hospitality tourism field. I started when I was 5 years old, of course, but
so how long? So I know this core position. I know, like you mentioned, like it's not like you have travel industry experience, you have training experience. You're sort of combining these things. How long have you been in this position now with CORE? And I guess what has the introduction to this new part of your career been like?
It was an incredible opportunity. It was basically a relatively new education program, and I really am focusing on making this a true state-of-the-art program. For instance, things like a mobile access where the person could take this program anywhere they want to go, and also bite-sized learning pieces. So I've been doing this for about a year and a half with this particular program.
Okay. I guess for the listeners who maybe aren't familiar with CORE yet, what can you tell us about CORE? Like, what is the goal of CORE? What are you trying to accomplish with this training system?
Yeah, the goal of CORE is to introduce new to the industry travel advisors, people who are either career transitioning or they are looking for a new career, or they're just coming out of college and they don't know what they want to do. They're not sure if they want to be in hospitality. And also, like I said, career transitioners. So what we've done is we've introduced this as the basic learning level of becoming a travel advisor. This program is developed to introduce people into the industry, to get them involved as you know, the travel industry is forever, ever evolving. There are new products out every time. There are supplier webinars. There's many other programs that you could take to advance your career. But there has to be an entry point for people who don't understand this industry. So that's what our goal is with CORE, is to develop that program.
So I'm curious because that is a population of people who I think everyone's curious about in this industry. Like everyone sort of sees the need for new people to come into the industry simply because of how shorthanded things are, how quickly this industry is expanding, things like that. And I think I'm really interested to talk a little bit about that. The new to the industry people, like who are they? Like who are they? And I guess how are they finding CORE? I know you're marketing to a lot of them, but uh, I'm really curious, like who are the people who are interested in starting off a career as a travel advisor?
Gosh, that's everybody. Honestly, I mean, all disciplines. There are career changers. We have a lot of nurses, teachers, and project managers. They've kind of gotten tired of their industry. I mean, especially teachers and nurses, it's a very hard industry.
Yeah.
And they generally retire fairly early, usually in their 50s. So they're not quite at that age of retirement, and they want to move on to another industry that is a little bit less, should I say, intense when it comes to life-saving struggles.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the nurses especially. But we also have a lot of college students now who are interested. They're just not quite sure what they want to do yet. And this seems like it taps into many of their interests because they just really want to explore the world. But at the same time, they need to make money, and they are also interested in helping others plan their events. So I find that a lot of people who are usually the go-to personality of the ones that everybody goes to do everything, to plan the parties, are the ones who generally excel at this when they're that young.
Yeah, the nurses and teachers, again, I can completely understand you can get burnt out on those kind of careers pretty quickly because, like you mentioned, like high demands for day to day stuff, and like it doesn't
Correct.
seem like you ever get a second off. But it's interesting. Um, you mentioned something I think I overlooked until the last few years, where it dawned on me for some reason is coming into this industry. It seems incredibly important to have a network, like to have a network of
Yeah.
people you can start booking travel for. And nurses and teachers, very in person, very face to face kind of careers, seem to be like the perfect candidates to hit the ground running with this kind of career.
Absolutely, absolutely. And believe it or not, there are a few even, stockbrokers who have made their money early, and they want to move into something else, but they don't want something as intense,
Yeah.
which is a natural fit. I mean, of course, they have a huge, huge book of clients that they can use, especially for the luxury travel area.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. It's because I've heard. I've heard it. I think Brownell describes it as your sphere of influence, but having like C-suite executives, you can tell you're starting a travel agency, and the kind of people spending that amount of money again is not going to hurt you when you're starting off a travel agency career.
exactly. I mean, it's actually a natural. I mean, they trusted you with their money all this time, and now
Yeah,
you're
it's
just
true.
transitioning. So it's not like you have to convince them that you are a trusted partner in planning their travel.
I guess what's interesting to me is you mentioned like you're getting some college students being interested in this
Yeah.
kind of career. And I know like travel industry in general is a pretty enticing industry for young
Mhm.
people. A lot of people are interested in travel like growing up with, but then just like they want to make that their passion. What are when you talk to the college students in particular, like what kind of things are they most surprised about or most wondering about when when they come to you or consider taking core or consider this kind of career? Like, are they curious about this being a sustainable way to make a living?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's their most biggest concern. I think that they're surprised to find out that this is actually a legitimate field, and it's a very thriving field. It's a very popular field, but it's it has an old reputation of that old travel agent, sitting in an office, thinking that they're not making money. They're not introduced to all the nuances within the travel industry. And quite frankly, becoming a travel advisor could also grow into another type of position, whether it be working for another supplier or working for a DMC. It can lead to many different industries if they find that the travel advisor is not quite what they're looking for, but they still want to stay in travel. So this is a great way to introduce them to the industry. And it's a fantastic industry. I just don't think that they're aware of it.
Well, I guess I'm always curious about that. And again, like I don't know if I don't think anyone has a solution to this, but like where does that responsibility fall? Because I think that needs to be something that the industry is able to sort out. Like who is marketing to these college students? Because I imagine they're like you mentioned some hospitality majors, things like that. Like I imagine their college professors aren't marketing this as what you like a way or marketing this in a way that this industry will be marketing it. Who do you think needs to be, or like in your experience, who is making that connection for the advisors who are taking core?
Well, I would say it would be the workforce development departments. Those are the ones who are introducing new career opportunities for these students. I don't think that they quite ever, I mean, I just recently had a conversation with a CUNY school in New York here. And when I had the meeting with them, he said, I had no idea what a wonderful industry this was. And he says, I'm ready to quit my job and join you guys. So I'm either a good salesperson or it's just the travel industry alone. That's really an incredible industry. So I think by introducing these workforce development programs and putting them within the college university as either a supplemental course that they can add or enhance to hospitality majors and or career transitioners. So, we have to make these colleges much more informed. And I think by us incorporating them into our events and introducing them to the industry will really help propel getting more students in and more travel agents involved in this industry.
Yeah, and again, those conversations, there are a lot of positives for this career. The flexibility, the
Yep.
earnings potential eventually, if you're able to build a business or to build an agency that is catering to like a luxury or a premium traveler. Like I imagine there are some big potential. There is some big potential there. And again, like I mentioned, the ability to travel, the ability to see the world and work from forever, I think is pretty attractive to a lot of like particularly young college students. One thing I've always heard from people when I've had this conversation about bringing new people into the industry is it's a difficult ask to say that when they're training or when they're even starting to book travel, their first paycheck, like the first substantial way to make money is X amount of months out of the way, simply because how the commission structure is paid or how major suppliers pay commission. Like, is that something that these kids struggle with when they're considering this kind of career?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the reason why we developed this program is especially just for that was because um, the time to upskill is very important when you're hiring a new travel agent. It's important for that person to be interested and still sell and not, becoming a revolving door of new agents coming in and getting frustrated. That is the goal of having a training program that's made for new travel advisors is to upskill them faster, quicker. So it's less stress on both the agency owner and the actual agent. Because there are frustrations with that. I mean, we all have to pay bills, right? So,
Yeah.
we want to get them upskilled as fast as possible because we want to keep them in the industry, providing that they're obviously qualified and they have the right personality for it. But anybody's going to get disgusted if they're not making that money within the first 3 months. So even if it's teaching them the quick wins and we provide sales sheets, sales ideas, things that they can do to generate more revenue for them. And I think once they see that first, commission check come in, it's motivating for them and they want to do more. So they'll reach out to more and more contacts. And this is what this program teaches them is to teach them how to make those contacts, not just what the industry is about, but providing a toolkit for them that they can walk away with that allows to guide them through this process. And of course, our mentoring program. So there's mentoring with this as well, that they can, once they go through the program, they reach out to that mentor if they need any clarity or details about that particular module that they're reading.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about core, like specifically. In my head, it always seems like you need to teach new advisors certain skills, like sales skills, even like business skills, running a business, things like that. Then you also need to teach them sort of the knowledge base, like the travel industry knowledge that you need to know in order to operate
Correct.
within this industry. Like, is that what core tries to accomplish? Like, what?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. We start with, it's the players in the industry, introducing them to the players of the industry. But then we also move into things like geography, which, some people take for granted.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand. You need to understand what time zone differences are and how they affect the planning of their trip. But we also go into AI for travel advisors, how to use it effectively, what to look out for, what not to trust, and what to trust, and what prompts to put in to get the best results, as well as cybersecurity, which is super important because they're dealing with a lot of information, a lot of private information, that if they don't have this, it could be detrimental to the agency. As well as the laws and the compliance that they have to abide by when obtaining that information. So these are all important things because honestly, they can lose that commission just like that if they make a mistake that could have been avoided with the proper training. And a lot of mistakes can be avoided with proper training, but also the sales techniques are in there as well. We really focus on a lot of sales techniques to help them through that process, including just giving them prompts, whether it's suggesting that they go to a vineyard and, talk to the owner about hosting a quick little presentation about wines in Italy and combining that with an Italy trip. It's just as an example of what we do in those toolkits. But those toolkits are provided for them so that they don't get frustrated and that it does make it easy for them to transition in there.
Yeah, and I know I've spoken to you and I've spoken to some other members of your team before about the knowledge, like some stuff you overlook, airport codes and things like that. Like you mentioned, time zones are so important. I'm curious. I mean, you mentioned like you get a wide swath of people coming into core,
Yep.
all ages, all different career paths. Like, is there something that's pretty common, like as an overlooked skill, or something that new entrants are surprised that they need to know or need to learn how to do in order to succeed in this business?
I think they're probably surprised that most is working with suppliers and who the players are. And, what is a BDM? What is a supplier? What does a cruise line do and what they don't do? All those hidden fees that you have to be, alerted about. I think they're more surprised about that than they are about geography or social media, although we include it because we have all different age groups and all different capacities. And that's the great thing about the program is that it has a wide breadth. So they can, they might do really well in geography or even cybersecurity, depending on what their background is, but they might be doing lousy at learning what a supplier is and how to work with them or how to work with a BDM and what they do and what they don't do. So I think that's the part. And also where they get their commission from and how to maximize that commission. That's another big part of it, not realizing where their money comes from.
What is there a common misperception about where their money comes from? Like, do they realize that it's not coming from the client? Like, that seems to be something that maybe a lot of them aren't aware of.
They're not aware of it. It's really interesting because I literally just had a conversation with, I was at a friend's house and they had another person there. And they said, I never use a travel agent. And we were in a room of travel agents. And I said, why not? And she said, because I don't want to pay. I said, you don't pay. I said, and so you bring up a very good point is that people feel like, I don't want to go and charge somebody or convince them that I have to book their trip and I'm going to charge them this. I said, that's not where it comes from. It's relatively easy to get clients if you're a person who's fairly social or, it's it's a no-brainer, honestly, when you think about it, because you're getting the money from your suppliers. And I think that's the biggest surprise for the new travel agents on board.
Yeah, like the supplier side of your business is, I don't think it's uncomplicated. Like there are suppliers of all sizes who serve different audiences, who serve different regions, who do different things. Like it that I guess maybe I've underestimated how complicated that world can be for someone who isn't used to these
Exactly.
terms, yeah, this structure at all. Like it does seem like something that isn't like it seems like a big hurdle for people coming into this industry.
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone in one of the trade shows in Chicago, and they said, "Well, where do you get your money?" And I said, "Well, you see all these people in this room? They're going to be giving you the money." I said, "That's why you're here. It's not just to sell their product as you because he was coming in as more of a travel enthusiast, but he ended up signing up for the course once he realized where the money comes from, how the industry works, and speaking all about the lovely things about the industry and also the hard things about the industry. It's not all bells and whistles, and you always have that one or two client that's going to, give you a run for your money. But if you have the stamina, you can certainly excel in this industry.
Are there any other warnings? Like, is it just customer service stuff, or are you like when people are considering this as a career? Like, do you have that hard conversation with them about some of the realities or some of the stuff that they are going to have to deal with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We even have part of our module is how to deal with difficult clients.
Clients,
When to
yeah.
know to, when you cannot service them, you need to understand that. And, what to say to them and how to handle that person. It may not be the fit for you. It may not be the client that you want to take, and you need to understand where to cut that tie. And so it goes into all of that within the program. So it's important that they understand not everybody's a perfect fit as a client for you. And it may cost you more in the end than it actually is worth. But it does cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of the
Yeah.
industry.
All right, so I just have a couple more. I did want to ask, you mentioned AI. What are you just trying to give advisors like a basic understanding of what they can do with AI nowadays? Because for me, I'm having a hard time figuring out like what parts of my life I can give over to AI, like professional life and personal life. Like
Right.
that seems to be something that's constantly changing, like every day. Like that's not even an exaggeration. Like it seems like every day I feel like
It
I have
is.
to do something else. Like
Yeah, it
how
is.
are you dealing with it? Yeah.
We keep today, our module was vetted by an actual trainer in AI who is a developer. So, we started out with the basics of AI for travel advisors, the things to look out for, what not to put in your prompts, what to put in your prompts, and what not to trust. And also that regardless of whether you put it into AI, you need to vet it. You still need to look
Yeah.
at it. You own the information that you're sending to that client. So you better be sure that you have the proper information. And so you're kind of a fact checker as well, is to make sure. But AI can make their lives very easy also by automating certain things. So automating letters or reminders, things that you need to do on a daily basis. So it can be your friend, but it also can be your enemy. And this is where this course goes into that, is where to embrace it and where to be very careful about it, because it can be very helpful in streamlining your processes as a travel advisor. So don't be scared of it. We try to make it not intimidating for the learner, because AI is intimidating. We're all terrified of it. Everybody's afraid they're going to lose their jobs. It's not here to replace our jobs. It's here to make things easier. So somebody is not, even though you can't replace an experience of a travel advisor or somebody who's been in a certain country or who has dealt with all these different suppliers, AI can't replace that. You have that experience and you also have that interaction, and nobody's going to trust. I certainly won't trust AI to plan my itinerary without doing due diligence and looking into what they're recommending. So it's just a starting point to help them move forward, but they still have to do their due diligence.
Yeah, it seems to be when I talk to advisors, like they did a lot of them. We did a survey, and it seemed like the pain point a lot of them wanted removed was content creation. Like they didn't want to be writing blog posts or like social media
Right.
posts. Even it seems like they wanted that taken care of. I know there's like a lot of stuff. I'm trying to wrap my head around Claude code and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of stuff that's going on. So yeah, I was curious to hear that. I also want to ask about Air. That seems to be like another, I guess, pain point for current advisors, or something a lot of current advisors just kind of throw their hands up about now and say, I'm not doing this, or a lot of them let their clients book their own Air, or a lot of them are, I don't know. It seems like Air is a product that is increasingly complicated or increasingly not worth the advisor's time. Like, are you training advisors on Air, on GDS systems, on things like that?
Yeah, so we don't train them on a specific system like a GDS system, just because everybody uses their own different systems. But we do discuss AIR. There's a whole module for AIR. We have one for the Canadians and one for the US, because the rules and regulations are quite different. And so they need to understand those rules and regulations. And so we do cover ways to make money off AIR. And you're correct, it's not the easiest of the commissions out there. But there is money to be made if they understand where they can make that money and how to make it work for them. So there's a whole module based on just AIR. So AIR Essentials for US and also Canadian advisors.
All right. And then I want to ask you like where people can find core and things like that. But my last question is, I know a lot of advisors are learning on the job these days, or a lot of advisors are picking up new skills as even if they're deep into their careers. Like, is there anything that you think can't really be trained, or things that advisors need to learn on the job when they start doing this day to day, when they start booking travel? Like, being an entrepreneur, I know is a huge accomplishment, a huge goal for a lot of people. I
Yep.
imagine a lot of stuff comes from experience.
It does. It comes from experience, but we also have, again, another module on startups versus
Okay.
membership, on what you want to do, and how that works. And it's up to that person, but my advice personally is start out with a host agency, and get your feet wet before you jump in wholeheartedly, because you really had a lot of risks for a lot of cost with a startup. But they will read that in the module, and it takes them through the process and what's involved and the financial risks and investments that they have to put in to become their own career. And it might be something that, okay, I'm going to start with a host agency for a year, and then I'll move on to my own module once I understand this. So it really helps them through that process on how to move on and how to take your career to the next level with this program. It doesn't go into a deep dive into it, but it certainly covers it so that they understand that starting up is quite expensive on your own. You have
Yeah.
assurance and regulations, and a one-person show. Developing your websites, the marketing, what you have to do to actually get up and running. So it does cover that as well.
Yeah, when I talk to advisors or agency owners who are 20, 30 years into the career, like where they started is rarely where they ended up. So it is a good point. Like maybe a host I know are a good idea for so many people who are trying to get their feet wet. There's a lot of hosts like who are built on making it easy for you to enter the industry. So yeah, I
Right.
think that's probably really great advice. Where so Diana, where for if there's a new entrant, if someone who maybe is considering coming into this industry, and is interested in core, where can people find out about core?
Well, I can go on our website. Obviously, it's coretraveleducation.com. We also are partnering with many host agencies for the training. So they can look on there as well, and they can look at all different programs that we have or modules, I should say, that we have to see if that's the right fit for them. We are at trade shows. We are going to be at TMR Vancouver, which I'm very excited about, and also TMR Calgary. So we're really looking forward to that. We're also rolling out a French module, a French course, so that we can be in the Quebec region as well. So we're excited about that. In addition to also, we have a wonderful customization program for travel agency owners that we can customize the content specifically for them. So you can find us. I'm here again, www.coretraveleducation.com. So we are everywhere.
So the owners will be able to white label the core for their
Yes.
near. Oh wow, that's incredible. That's something I know, because I know a lot of owners struggle with training. A lot of them don't want to put the time in. So this seems like kind of a
Yeah.
good solution for that. Yeah.
So if they do have their own training materials, say about their own processes and procedures, and they want to incorporate that within our program, it will be one platform for that student. So the agency owners can pick and choose, and if they say, I would like you to take out a certain module, I don't think that's necessary for my agents, we can do so. So, and it's really the only program out there right now that is customizable, and it's made for both agency owners and travel agents.
All right. All right. Well, Diana, thank you so much for your time. We'll get the links to the core website into the body below this video. But I really appreciate the time, the insights. Congratulations, and I'm
Thank
excited
you.
to see what happens with core and what happens with the sort of that segment of this industry throughout the rest of the year.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it.